in almost every toxic relationship, a quiet realization that you have been staying for reasons that have nothing to do with love and everything to do with fear. It is the moment when you look at the person you have invested so much of yourself in and you no longer recognize the situation you are in. You do not feel joy when you think of them. You feel exhaustion. You feel obligation. You feel the weight of all the time you have already given and the sinking suspicion that if you leave now, it will all have been for nothing. That moment is the crossroads, and how you respond to it will determine not just the quality of your relationships, but the quality of your entire life. The philosopher Epictetus, who understood the human condition better than most, taught that if a man has frequent intercourse with others, either for talk or for social purposes, he must either become like them or change them to his own fashion. That is a profound warning. You will become like the people you surround yourself with. And if you are surrounded by people who drain you, disrespect you, or make you feel smaller than you are, you will slowly become a version of yourself that you do not recognize. Most people, and particularly most men, are living under a dangerous illusion. They believe that having someone, anyone, is better than having no one at all. This is not wisdom. It is fear dressed up as practicality. It is the belief that your worth is measured by your relationship status, that being alone is somehow a failure, that solitude is something to be escaped at all costs. But here is the Stoic truth that most people never learn. There are far worse things in life than being alone. Being in a relationship that makes you feel more lonely than if you were straight up alone, that is 1,000 times worse. Because that is a cognitive dissonance that eats away at your soul. You are in a situation where you are choosing each other, yet it feels more isolating than if you were simply by yourself. And yet, people stay. They stay because of the dopamine, the intermittent reinforcement that keeps them addicted to a person who is not good for them. They stay because of the ego, the desperate need to finally have their validation rewarded. They stay because of the sunk cost fallacy, the belief that because they have already invested so much time and energy, they must get something back or else accept that it was a complete loss. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, understood the danger of pouring yourself into relationships that are already dead. He warned against the kind of attachment that leaves you weaker and softer imperceptibly. And modern Stoic wisdom echoes this. Stop watering dead plants. We pour our souls into relationships and projects that died years ago because we are terrified of the empty space they will leave behind. But knowing exactly when to quit is a higher form of wisdom than knowing how to endure. The Stoics understood that your peace is not something to be sacrificed on the altar of someone else's convenience. As Epictetus wrote, if a companion is dirty, his friends cannot help but get a little dirty too, no matter how clean they started out. The people you allow into your life will rub off on you. They will shape your thoughts, your habits, and your character. And if you are not careful, you will wake up one day and realize that you have become someone you never wanted to be, simply because you were too afraid to walk away. The fear of loneliness is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. It drives people to settle for relationships that are wrong for them, to tolerate behavior that is unacceptable, and to stay in situations that are actively harming them. But here is what the Stoics knew that most people never realize. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Being by yourself is a fact about the room you are in. Loneliness is something else entirely. It is a state of mind, a belief that something essential is missing. And that belief is not always grounded in reality. Most people think the worst thing in the world is being alone. But the worst thing in the world is not to be alone, but to be around people who make you feel alone. When you are in a toxic relationship, you are not just alone. You are alone while someone is sitting right next to you. And that is a special kind of hell. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote that nowhere is quieter or freer from trouble than one's own soul. He understood that true peace does not come from external circumstances, it comes from within. And when you are so afraid of being alone that you will tolerate anything to avoid it, you are telling yourself that your own company is not enough. You are telling yourself that you cannot be happy without someone else to validate your existence. And that is a lie. Seneca wrote that nothing is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company. If you cannot be alone with yourself, if you cannot sit in silence without reaching for a distraction, if you cannot stand your own thoughts, then you have work to do. And that work is not going to be done by finding the right person. It is going to be done by becoming the right person. Your great-grandmother knew this. She told your father years ago that there are a lot worse things in life than being lonely. And she was right. There are a lot worse things than being alone. Being trapped in a situation that makes you feel more alone than if you were by yourself, that is worse. Being with someone who makes you feel invisible, that is worse. Being with someone who drains your energy and diminishes your spirit, that is worse. The Stoics were not antisocial. They understood that human beings are social creatures by nature. They did not advocate for isolation. But they also understood that not all company is worth keeping. Epictetus taught that if a man places a piece of quenched charcoal close to a piece that is burning, either the quenched charcoal will quench the other, or the burning charcoal will light that which is quenched. In other words, you will either lift up the people around you, or they will drag you down. And if you are in a situation where you are constantly being dragged down, you have a choice. You can keep trying to light the dead charcoal, hoping that this time it will catch fire. Or you can walk away and find something that is already burning. This is where the Stoic principle of control comes in. You have power over your mind, not outside events. You cannot control whether someone values you. But you can control your choice to stop clinging where you are no longer seen. You can control whether you stay in a situation that is making you smaller. And that choice is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. The Stoics understood that a bad relationship does not only wound you, it reveals what weakness in you allowed it to stay. And that is a hard truth to face. It is easier to blame the other person, to point fingers, to play the victim. But the Stoic path is to look inward, to ask yourself why you tolerated it, why you stayed, why you let someone treat you in a way that you would never treat them. That is the uncomfortable work. But it is the work that sets you free. Let us be honest about something. There is a narrative in our culture that love is something to fight for. People say, we live in a generation where people do not fight for anything. They just walk away. Where did this narrative come from? That love is something to fight for, something to get in the ring and battle over. That is not wisdom. That is a romanticized version of dysfunction. Being in a healthy relationship does not require constant fighting. It does not require you to prove your love by enduring pain. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. If you are in a relationship that requires you to constantly fight for basic respect, you are not free. You are a prisoner of your own fear. And the only way out is to walk away. Think about what you are actually fighting for. If you are fighting for someone who does not respect you, you are not fighting for love. You are fighting for validation. You are fighting to prove that you are worthy, that you are enough, that you can make it work if you just try hard enough. But that is not a fight you can win, because the person you are fighting for is not the problem. The problem is the belief that you need them to be happy. The problem is the belief that you cannot survive without them. And as long as you believe that, you will keep settling. You will keep tolerating behavior that is unacceptable. You will keep giving your time and energy to people who do not deserve it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus wrote that some things are up to us and some are not. You cannot control whether someone values you. You cannot control whether they change. You cannot control whether they become the person you need them to be. But you can control whether you stay. You can control whether you continue to invest in something that is not giving back. You can control whether you choose yourself over a fantasy. And this brings us to the heart of the matter. The reason people stay in toxic relationships is not because they do not know better. It is because they are afraid of the alternative. They are afraid of being alone. They are afraid of starting over. They are afraid of admitting that they wasted time. They are afraid of the judgment of others and anyone else. But here is the Stoic truth. That fear is based on a lie. You can be happy alone. You can build a life that is full and meaningful without a partner. You can find peace in your own company. And when you do, you will no longer settle. You will no longer tolerate disrespect. You will no longer give your time and energy to people who do not deserve it. You will become someone who knows their worth. And that is the most attractive quality a person can have. Seneca wrote that you cannot be lonely if you like the person you are alone with. And when you learn to like yourself, when you learn to enjoy your own company, you will stop accepting the kind of treatment that makes you feel small. Now, I want to address something that is often overlooked in this conversation: the role of social media and dating apps in creating a generation of people who settle. We live in a world of endless options, or at least the illusion of endless options, and that illusion has messed up an entire generation. People are paralyzed by analysis paralysis, thinking they have all the options in the world, yet they end up settling for whoever comes along first. They are so afraid of missing out on something better that they fail to commit to anything real. And at the same time, they are so afraid of being alone that they will settle for anyone who shows them attention. It is a contradiction that leaves people stuck. They are afraid of commitment, yet they are also afraid of being single. They are afraid of missing out, yet they are also afraid of ending up alone. And in that paralysis, they settle for relationships that are not right for them. But here is the Stoic reframe: you do not have to settle. You do not have to accept the first thing that comes your way. You do not have to stay in a situation that is not serving you because you are afraid of the alternative. The alternative is freedom. The alternative is peace. The alternative is the chance to find someone who actually aligns with you. And that is worth waiting for. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. And that power extends to your relationships. You have the power to choose who you let into your life. You have the power to set standards for how you are treated. You have the power to walk away from anything that does not meet those standards. That is not arrogance. That is self-respect. A bad relationship does not only wound you, it reveals what weakness in you allowed it to stay. That is a hard truth. It is easier to blame the other person. It is easier to play the victim. It is easier to tell yourself that you did everything right and they were just terrible. But the Stoic path is to look inward, to ask yourself why you tolerated it, why you stayed, why you let someone treat you in a way that you would never treat them. That is the uncomfortable work. But it is the work that sets you free. Because when you understand what weakness in you allowed the toxicity to thrive, you can root it out. You can build the kind of self-respect that will never again tolerate a situation that diminishes you. The Stoics also understood that we are social creatures. We need connection. We need community. We need people who see us and value us. But we do not need toxic people. We do not need people who drain us. We do not need people who make us feel smaller. And the distinction between those two categories is one of the most important distinctions you will ever make. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we ought with caution to enter into familiar intercourse with men. He knew that the people you surround yourself with will shape you. They will influence your thoughts, your habits, your character. And if you are not careful, you will become like them. That is why you must be selective. That is why you must have standards. That is why you must be willing to walk away from people who are not good for you. There is a quote from Seneca that has always stayed with me. He said that no good thing is pleasant to possess without friends to share it, and he was right. The good things in life are better when they are shared. But that does not mean you should settle for bad friends just to have someone to share with. It means you should seek out friends who are worthy of sharing your good things with. It means you should build a life that attracts the kind of people who will lift you up, not drag you down. And that takes time. It takes patience. It takes a willingness to be alone while you wait for the right people to show up. The Stoics also understood that friendship is not about quantity. It is about quality. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you should not crave either solitude or a crowd. You do not need to be surrounded by people to be happy. And you do not need to isolate yourself to be at peace. What you need is to be at peace with yourself. And from that place of inner peace, you can choose the people who are worthy of your time and energy. Seneca wrote that friendship is always advantageous, while love is sometimes injurious. That is a powerful distinction. Real friendship, based on mutual respect and genuine care, is always a benefit. But love, romantic love, can be harmful. It can lead you to make decisions that are not in your best interest. It can lead you to tolerate things you should not tolerate. It can lead you to lose yourself. That is why you must be careful. That is why you must be selective. That is why you must be willing to walk away from love that is not good for you. There is a reason so many men settle for the wrong relationships. They are living under the illusion that having someone is better than having no one at all. And that is a dangerous illusion, because it leads you to tolerate things you should not tolerate. It leads you to give your time and energy to people who do not deserve it. It leads you to stay in situations that are actively harming you, and all because you are afraid of being alone. But being alone is not the worst thing that can happen to you. The worst thing that can happen to you is to lose yourself, to become someone you do not recognize, to wake up one day and realize that you have given so much of yourself away that there is nothing left. That is the real tragedy. And it is a tragedy that is entirely preventable. The Stoic path is not about avoiding relationships. It is about approaching them with wisdom. It is about being clear about what you want and what you will not tolerate. It is about having the courage to walk away from anything that does not meet your standards. And it is about building a life that is so full and meaningful that you do not need a relationship to be happy. When you have that kind of life, you will no longer settle. You will no longer tolerate disrespect. You will no longer give your time and energy to people who do not deserve it. You will become someone who knows their worth. And that is the most attractive quality a person can have. So, what is the one relationship rule that will save you years of pain? It is this: do not settle. Do not stay in a situation that is not serving you. Do not give your time and energy to people who do not deserve it. Do not tolerate behavior that diminishes you. And do not be afraid to walk away. The Stoics understood that true freedom comes from within. It comes from knowing your worth. It comes from being willing to be alone rather than being with someone who makes you feel alone. It comes from having the courage to choose yourself. And that courage is something you can develop. It is something you can practice. It is something you can build, one small choice at a time. If you are in a toxic situation right now, I am not telling you that leaving will be easy. It will not be. It will be hard. It will be painful. You will doubt yourself. You will question whether you are making the right decision. You will feel the pull of the familiar, the comfort of the known, even when the known is destroying you. But I am telling you that staying will be harder. Staying will cost you more. Staying will take more from you than leaving ever could. And the longer you stay, the harder it will be to leave. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that it is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them. The event is that you are in a toxic relationship. The judgment is that you cannot leave, that you cannot survive alone, that you will never find anyone better. And that judgment, not the relationship itself, is what is keeping you trapped. I want to leave you with something that has always stayed with me. Your great-grandmother told your father that there are a lot worse things in life than being lonely. And she was right. There are worse things than being alone. There are worse things than being single. There are worse things than not having a partner. And one of those worse things is being in a relationship that makes you feel more alone than if you were by yourself. That is the Stoic truth. That is the truth that will set you free. Do not settle. Do not give up. Do not let fear dictate your choices. Build a life that you are proud of. Build a life that you enjoy. Build a life that does not depend on anyone else for its meaning. And when you have that life, you will attract the kind of people who are worthy of sharing it with you. That is the Stoic promise. And it is a promise that has held true for thousands of years.